Chances are, if you grew up in the US, you've heard of 4-H, right? You probably picture county fairs, maybe some livestock, and of course, that famous green clover. Well, a new study reveals that this classic American organization is actually facing a huge, very modern identity crisis. Okay, let's get into it. We're talking about an organization that's been around for over 120 years. Think about that. For more than a century, it's been a cornerstone of youth development in America, touching the lives of millions and millions of kids. It really is a true American institution. I mean, it started out as these humble little boys' corn clubs and girls' canning clubs way back in the early 1900s and grew into this massive force for shaping young lives. But that's the thing, isn't it? That deep, long history brings up a really critical question for today. Can an organization with roots that go that deep actually adapt to a world that's changing faster than ever before? So, to really get what's at stake here, we first have to understand the sheer scale of 4-H. This is not just some small town club we're talking about. Okay, so get this. 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the entire country. And it isn't just a standalone thing, it's officially part of the university cooperative extension system. Now, its roots might be in farming, but today its focus has exploded to include stuff like STEM, citizenship, and leadership. And here's the real kicker, the core of its identity. It's deeply generational. It's a tradition passed down, which creates this incredibly tight-knit, powerful community. But here's the catch. That strong, traditional community is now facing a total tidal wave of external pressures. Let's take a look at how that's playing out. You know, one researcher put it perfectly. The ground is literally shifting under 4-H's feet. And according to the study, the organization's own leaders are totally aware of it. They can feel the tectonic plates moving. And this is where it gets really real, because you can see how these big, abstract challenges are hitting people on the ground. You've got a leader like Timothy who's basically saying, hey, in the cities, we're just one of a million options for kids. Then Sam comes in with the hard data, pointing out that they're still not reaching a diverse enough population. And maybe most importantly, you have Callie admitting that the 4-H brand, what people think it is, feels kind of stuck in the past. So all these pressures from the outside are stirring up this really fascinating conflict on the inside. It's forcing the whole organization to take a long, hard look in the mirror. And here it is. This is the core paradox that 4-H is wrestling with. It's kind of wild, right? Their single greatest strength, that super passionate, dedicated community, has also become their biggest threat. How? Well, it turns out the very people who love the organization the most are often the ones who are most afraid to see it change. I mean, this quote from a state leader in Mount Elizabeth just says it all, doesn't it? The people who are the most deeply invested want to preserve the program they knew, the one they grew up with. And you totally get it. But that desire to keep things comfortable can accidentally put the brakes on the evolution needed for a whole new generation. So how in the world do you navigate a situation like that? Well, the study found that leaders have actually come up with a plan, what they believe is a 5-point playbook for the future. Yeah, you can think of this as their blueprint for survival. It's a 5-part strategy. It kicks off with modernizing their core club model, then creating more flexible programs, teaming up with other groups, making a real effort to welcome new families, and finally, giving that old school brand a much-needed refresh. Now, that first step is absolutely key. Nobody is saying, let's get rid of the traditional club. Not at all. The real idea is to figure out what those magic ingredients are. You know, the mentorship, the hands-on projects, and then find ways to bake them into new, more accessible formats, like camps or after-school programs. And that leads right into the second idea, creating a whole menu of options. So, on one end, you still have the traditional clubs. That's the deep dive, high engagement experience. But on the other end, you might have school programs that only last a few hours, but can reach thousands of kids and give them a taste of 4-H. It's all about meeting kids where they're at. To make this work, leaders know they have to break out of that generational bubble. So they've actually come up with a term for their target audience, first-generation youth. It's pretty simple. It means kids and families who have zero prior experience with a 4-H program. And this quote from another leader, David, shows just how big of a mindset shift this is. I mean, for an organization that's built on tradition, intentionally focusing on newcomers is huge. It's no longer enough to just say, hey, our doors are open. They know they have to actively go out and tear down the barriers, like confusing enrollment forms or insider lingo, that might keep a new family from ever walking through that door.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. What does all this mean for the actual future of 4-H? The task ahead is a real tightrope walk. It's this incredibly delicate balancing act between honoring a century of history and tradition while also making the bold, necessary changes to survive for another 100 years.
And this is the million-dollar question the study really leaves us with. Can a 1-week summer camp or a 6-week after-school project truly deliver the same kind of deep, life-changing impact that comes from being in a club with the same mentors and friends for 10 years? At the end of the day, as 4-H works to bring in all these new, diverse members through all these different programs, can it guarantee that they are getting an experience that is just as powerful, just as transformative as the one enjoyed by generations before them? The future of this American icon really truly depends on that answer.